The government announces plans for robust private housing land supply, yielding over 6,600 flats. Residents of Wongfu Court will be able to return home and get their personal belongings as early as late April. And Afghanistan and Pakistan exchanged deadly cross-border attacks, with Islamabad declaring open war on Afghan Taliban. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Evan Bai. The government will unleash a land bonanza in the new financial year, offering 9 residential sites that could yield over 6,600 private homes. The initiative is part of a broader program that also includes MTR and Urban Renewal Authority projects, pushing the total private housing supply to more than 22,000 units, a 60% surge from this year and the highest number in nearly 8 years. Kun Ting-yang has more details.
Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin said, the government is confident the massive land supply will be absorbed by the market, citing the northern metropolis's development momentum and the prime locations of key sites. The bumper supply includes 3 large-scale sites in the Hongshikyu area alone, which will contribute nearly half of the new flats, about 3,120 units. Meanwhile, 3 rollover sites in Stanley, Tongchong, and Sai-Kung will return to the market, joined by 3 new plots in Homenting and Shatin's Shekmun. The first quarter will lead the charge with 2 major projects, a residential site in Tongchong and the MTR Tunmu Area 16 Phase 2, together delivering over 6,600 units. The government projects land premium revenue to reach $18 billion in the next financial year, a modest increase from this year's revised estimate of $17.5 billion. Kun Ting-yang, Cable News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan expressed confidence that a growing economy has the ability to repay the increased bond issuance for infrastructure projects, despite ongoing geopolitical challenges. Speaking on a radio program, Chen responded to a university student who questioned whether the economic returns of investments will be sufficient to cover debt. Given the latest budget's plan to raise borrowing ceiling for bond issuance to $900 billion to accelerate the development of the northern metropolis and other public works projects.
The idea is that for the northern metropolis infrastructure investment, it is not just for the current few years, but it will be a major engine of growth for Hong Kong in the next 20 years. So we need to quickly bring in people, business, and industries. Currently, our debt to equity, outstanding liability to GDP ratio is about 14.4%, 5 years rising to about 19.9%. By any international standard, will be still very safe. We are very confident with the growing economy, with the investment return, we will be able to service these debts.
The finance chief expects geopolitical challenges to continue, bringing uncertainty but also opportunities to Hong Kong.
We make sure we have a strong buffer to weather through this different volatility. Our financial system remains stable, strong, and at the same time, we also need to take opportunity of this challenging situation to position ourselves properly.
More 400 companies are in the pipeline for listing in the SAR, as more capital is set to come into the city, the minister added. Deputy Chief Secretary Werner Church has assured residents of gutted Wongfu Court that they will be allowed to return home and collect personal belongings as early as late April. 3 months after the devastating blaze at the estate, many residents have expressed hope of going back and retrieving their belongings. Expressing understanding and respect, Chek said 7 blocks of Wongfu Court do not have collapse hazards, but reminded residents that there are no lifts, water, or electricity when residents return home, so climbing the stairs may be strenuous. The interiors of some severely burned units were badly damaged, such as the ceilings, floors, and walls, he added. With the estate involving more than 1,700 flats, Chek said authorities will take photos of flats that suffered severe damage, giving residents the decision whether they want to return. As the $2 public transport scheme for the elderly is set to change to a $2 flat rate plus 80% discount model in April, Labor and Welfare Secretary Chris Sun said preparations are largely complete and the details will be announced soon. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Last year's budget proposed changes to the $2 elderly transport concession. Under the new arrangement, journeys costing $10 or less will remain at $2, while fares above $10 will be charged at 20% of the original price. Sun explained that over the past year, the government has worked tirelessly to make adjustments, including system upgrades and gate modifications. He said the scheme is now at the last mile before rollout. Meanwhile, the latest budget continues last year's measures, requiring social welfare organizations to cut recurrent expenditure by a further 2%. The welfare chief noted that while government subsidies account for a significant share of NGO income, many organizations also raise funds and generate revenue from other sources. He suggested there may be room to ease restrictions and allow more flexibility. He stressed that the government has already helped small and medium-sized welfare organizations absorb 4% of the cuts and introduce measures to reduce their operating costs. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Pakistan's defense minister has announced that his nation is now in a state of open war with Afghanistan's Taliban government after the two sides exchanged fierce strikes overnight into this morning. The escalation marks the total collapse of a fragile ceasefire brokered by Qatar and Turkey just months ago. Kunting Yang reports.
Airstrikes shattered the night sky over Kabul, the Afghani capital, with Islamabad confirming it targeted military installations in the capital as well as in Kandahar and Paktia provinces, in retaliation for cross-border attacks by Afghan forces. In a blistering post on social media, Pakistan's defense minister Khawaja Asif made clear this was no longer a border skirmish. Our patience has now run out. Now it is open war between us, he wrote, accusing the Taliban of turning Afghanistan into a hub for exporting terrorism and a colony of India. The Pakistani strikes followed what the Taliban described as a large-scale offensive operations, launched last night against Pakistani positions along the disputed Durand Line. Both sides have given starkly conflicting accounts of the damage. Afghanistan claimed to have killed 55 Pakistani soldiers and captured several others, while also seizing 19 border posts. Pakistan denies those losses, countering that at least 133 Afghan fighters have been killed and 27 of their posts destroyed. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
A tense third round of indirect U.S.-Iran nuclear talks concluded in Geneva, with Omani mediators announcing significant progress, yet starkly opposing demands prevented a breakthrough. Simultaneously, U.S. President Donald Trump huddled with top generals to review strike plans against Iran. Chinese Foreign Ministry has urged its citizens not to go to Iran for the time being. Kunting Yang again has more.
The marathon discussions unfolded in two sessions, a 3-hour morning meeting followed by a shorter evening round. Sources say Tehran has rejected core U.S. demands to dismantle key nuclear sites and transfer its 400-kilogram stockpile of enriched uranium to Washington, insisting instead on its right to a peaceful program and the lifting of crippling economic sanctions. But Iranian officials are believed to have offered concessions, although the proposals have not been made public. One of the reported options was for Iran to dilute the enriched uranium in exchange for sanctions relief. Emerging from the meeting, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called it the longest and most serious yet, claiming good progress on both sanctions and nuclear issues. He announced that negotiations would resume in less than a week, with technical-level talks scheduled for Vienna. The U.S. delegation, led by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, initially expressed disappointment, but later shifted tone, describing the session as constructive. It remains unclear which conditions Trump could find acceptable for a deal. But on the same day of the talks, he listened to U.S. Central Command Chief Admiral Brett Cooper on potential military options in Iran. Trump had previously warned of strikes should diplomacy fail. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton told members of Congress that she had no knowledge of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, starting off 2 days of depositions that will also include her husband, former U.S. President Bill Clinton.
Perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier, but I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
After spending 6.5 hours with House Oversight Committee lawmakers behind closed doors in New York, Clinton said she had answered every one of their questions, blasting the Republicans for conducting the interview in private. The deposition came after both Clintons vigorously resisted testifying, only to reverse course when faced with the prospect of being held in criminal contempt of Congress. Hong Kong and Macau each had one candidate selected as payload specialists in China's 4th batch of astronauts back in 2022. Now, those astronauts may have the chance to join manned space missions as early as this year. Meanwhile, one of the crew members aboard Shenzhou 23 is set to embark on a record-breaking year-long stay in orbit. Jeremy Zhu has more.
Mainland space authorities have announced plans for 2 manned missions and 1 cargo resupply flight this year. The 2 astronauts from Hong Kong and Macau could be among those heading into space, taking part in operations aboard the nation's space station. Officials confirmed that both candidates remain in good condition and are undergoing training. As for the upcoming Shenzhou 23 mission, 1 astronaut will carry out an 1-year residency experiment, surpassing the current record of 204 days in orbit. Authorities highlighted that since the space station entered its application and development phase, 6 manned flights and 4 cargo missions have been successfully completed. In total, 18 astronauts have undertaken long-term stays, with 13 spacewalks conducted. The longest single spacewalk lasted 9 hours, setting a new world record. Looking ahead, China's manned space program will deepen work on both the space station and lunar exploration. The goal is to achieve a crewed moon landing by 2030. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Streaming giant Netflix declined to raise its bid in the months-long battle for Warner Bros. Discovery, clearing the way for Paramount Skydance to clinch the deal. In a statement, Netflix said it would not submit a higher offer. This came after Paramount Skydance raised its bid value to $111 billion for WBD. Netflix, the world's largest streaming company by subscriber count, said the latest proposal no longer made the deal financially attractive. It backed away and will resume its share repurchase program. Netflix added that it will invest approximately $20 billion this year in films and series. Paramount Skydance's proposal includes a purchase price of $31 per share in cash. In December last year, WBD said it had agreed to sell its film and streaming divisions to Netflix in a deal worth $27.75 per share. Paramount Skydance also agreed to pay $7 billion should the deal fall through and cover the $2.8 billion fee Warner Bros. Had agreed to pay Netflix in the event of a breakup of the merger plan. Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up 249 points. Top active stocks of the day. Tencent was up $6. Alibaba was down 10 cents. Xiaomi was down 28 cents. Meituan was up 70 cents. On to the weather now. Cloudy with a few showers, visibility rather low in the morning and at night. Temperatures will range between 20 and 22 degrees. Humid on Sunday and Monday, and there will be coastal mist in the morning and at night. That's our news tonight. I'm Evelyn Bai. Thank you for watching and good night.